Secularization as a topic is going to be a much misunderstood topic in geography in general. Ideally speaking, this topic shouldn't have been in geography, but ideally speaking, this topic must have been in geography because it is one of those topics that goes on to represent the last stage of economic development. There is no way that economic development can go on to take place without it, without having undergone through the process of secularization. It's one of these topics that will go on to give some type of a perceptual distortion to some of the students who will go on to correlate with secularism. But of course, both of these topics are going to be very, very different. It has some relationship with secularism, some relationship with being secular, but then secularization, as the word goes on to denote, it's a complete process. What the student required to know with respect to secularization is the concept of secularization, the interpretations of secularization, what exactly secularization is. The third is going to be the factors which have led to secularization type of an attitude. Why is it that this attitude develops? And the fourth, forms and impact of secularization. These are the four components. The questions that can possibly be asked from this topic is going to be associated with how is it that secularization can go on to be leading to economic development, and why is it that it is the last stage of economic development. The second question that can be asked from this topic can be, what are the factors that go on to lead to the development and evolution of a secularization type of an attitude. And the third topic that one can go on to imagine is going to be the forms and impact of secularization, which is going to be of a basically academic nature type of a topic. And this is something that will be discussed and identified as well. Coming to the first part of it, that is the concept of secularization. Secularization is an attitude of autonomy from other worldly powers and a sense of responsibility of one's well-being, own well-being. Meaning that it's an attitude of autonomy, meaning that you are completely independent to think, independence of thinking, independent to act, independence of doing something, independence of following certain type of a track in life, and independence of seeing your future as well. So it's an attitude of autonomy, an attitude of independence, and independence is considered to be the ultimate state of economic development. So it's an attitude of autonomy for other worldly powers. That means you're not confined within the worldly limits. So you are not confined by certain type of a convention, certain type of a law, certain type of a ritual, certain type of a tradition. You're not tradition bound, you're not parampara baddha, as you go on to say it. And this is why you are away from the worldly powers. It's not that you go on to, don't want to believe in marriage, but for you to believe in marriage, it means marriage to your profession, marriage to your passion, marriage to your interest, not going to be necessarily getting married to a girl. You may have gone on to get wedded to a girl. A wedding and marriage, in this case, both of them will go on to be different. It's always going to be, marriage is always going to be talking about the building of an association between two people where both of these people are going to be very, very, very independent. And it is by being independent that they go on to aid each other in a variety of ways. Because they go on to be having a sense of responsibility towards themselves. That means they are the one who go on to be having a very, very high degree of a self-understanding about themselves. They go on to understand their mindset better. They go on to understand their strength. They go on to understand their weaknesses. They know that some of the things that they can go on to bring about a reform in themselves that will go on to propel them at a very, very higher level. That is going to be one of them. And when they go on to be talking about reforming them, when they go on to be talking about actually reforming them completely, then that is an absolute power. It's not that they're going to be talking about reforming the other people so that they're going to be strong. They're going to be reforming about themselves, and that is going to be an absolute power of sorts. So they're going to be having a sense of responsibility for one's own well-being. And as it is going to be said, if they are going to be true to themselves, they are going to be true to the world. So that means they are independent and they are transparent because they are completely truthful. And as they are going to be completely truthful, they are really going to be very responsible for one's own well-being. Any person that is going to be so truthful, it is going to be so transparent, so honest and independent, there's no way that he or she cannot go on to bring about any sense of a development of the whole of the society to which it goes on to belong a part of. So, secularization might be thought of as a modernization of thought, as distinct from the modernization of a certain type of ideas and social institutions. For example, what it means in this case is modernization of thought in this case will go on to imply taking an example of certain things like marriage, that a person may not go on to marry in the true sense of the term. He may not go on to get married in a court. He may not go on to get married as per any type of a ritual. He may not go on to marriage to show to the world. He may not go on to like the function of wedding, but then he is very, very modernized from the perspective of his thought, because even if he goes on to be with a girl to whom he is actually married within commas, but then it has not been on a paper, but then this relationship is going to be much more beautiful than even a traditional marriage cannot go on to think of, which a traditional marriage also cannot go on to think of. That is modernization of a thought. So it is a part of a modernization of a thought that the person can go on to develop certain type of a intrinsic relationship with 5 different type of a people as well, and they are the one who will be undergoing through certain type of emotional differentiation as well. Now this emotional differentiation will go on to imply that a person may go on to see one of these persons as a traditional type of a wife. He may go on to see another of this girl as a girlfriend. He may go on to see another of this girl or a boy as a true friend. He may go on to see another one of them as a companion. He may or she may go on to see another person as a guide and a philosopher as well. Now that is modernization of thought. Ability to differentiate the emotions, ability to identify these emotions, ability to be with it, and ability to draw a line in this case is what goes on to be talking about the modernization of a thought. So this is going to be completely distinct from modernization of social institutions, because the social institutions have not reached to that place at all in this case. So it's a process. It's a process that goes on to evolve during some amount of a time. And that process does go on to take certain amount of a time. It's not an event, and it doesn't go on to coming in one single day at all. Such type of a process was what was visible during the times of Amrapali, when she was the Nagar Vadhu of Vaishali. She was the ambassador, brand ambassador of the whole of Vaishali. She was secularized. She has undergone through this process of secularization, and one can imagine that is 2000 years back, a girl as glamorous as in your terminology as hot and sexy like that of Amrapali would have been a Nagar Vadhu. That means she was going to be a brand ambassador of a city, of entire of a state. Take another example of it. It was of Sansena, who was the one who was living during the time of Vatsyayan, who went on to write this treatise on Kama Sutra. Now she was one of these girls to whom a good number of married couples used to go to her to get oneself counseled, and sometimes when the marital relationships were not used to be good, then the girl used to deposit her husband with Vasansena for spending a day and a night, maybe 2 or 3 of them, till he goes on to get completely trained to such an extent that it was responsible for blessing the marital life of the couple also. And then the next day, the girl used to go with certain type of a fee as a jewelry to that lady Vasansena. Now this is going to be modernization of thought. So it doesn't go on to be a modernization of social institutions. The institution goes on to remain the same, but then the people's thought go on to keep on changing this manner. So secularization is a process of attaining such type of an attitude, a process of attaining such type of a mindset where one is going to be completely independent and independent of the entire of whatever the world goes on to think of, and they are able to defend any type of an action that they're going to do. They are able to defend anything that they are thinking of. They are able to defend and they're able to carry it as well as a part of their persona, anything that goes on to happen to them as well. Secularization has been variously interpreted. As we're going to say, it's a transformation of a society from close identification with traditional and anachronistic values and institutions towards unbiased, truthful, non-religious value and an independent thinking which can be defended logically and emotionally. Now pick up each one of them. It's the process of transformation of a society from close identification with traditional values. Tradition is bounded. It is bounded in the sense that there are certain things that are going to be bounded, that is going to be a ritual, that is going to be taking place in such a manner, and then it is not identified with it. It is going to be transformation of that type of a value. Anachronistic means certain things that may have been good some time back, but they are of no use right now in the modern terminology, in the modern times. Anachronistic values. And institutions towards unbiased. That means that is going to be completely non-traditional, unbiased, truthful, that is transparent, and that has nothing to do with religious values. It has to do with religion in the sense of a philosophy that is doing certain things as a duty bound. That is, humans have a duty of not feeling bad towards other human beings. That means being a human being, they are not allowed to feel bad about other human beings. That is non-religious, but that is religious as well. Religious because that is the religion of being a human being. But it is non-religious because it doesn't go to follow within the dogmas of any type of a religion also. And an independent thinking, a thinking that is going to be completely independent because every individual is independent, every individual is different, every individual is unique, exceptional and extraordinary, and that they can go on to defend certain things logically and emotionally. Any statement that they're going to make, any action that they're going to make. Now from that perspective, one can always go on to think that Lord Krishna was one who has undergone through this process of secularization. Because his relationship with Arjun was different, his relationship with Bhim was different, his relationship with Pandu were different, his relationship with Kaurava was different, his relationship with his gopis were different, and even within gopis, one was his wife, and his name is not taken with his wife, his name is taken with his, in the modern language, is with his girlfriend, with his lover, that was Radha, and another of them was Meera. So just imagine that is the entire relationship with these people were going to be so pure that his wife has been relegated completely into the background. And Krishna was able to defend every action of his in a logical manner. He had undergone through this entire process of secularization and he was completely secularized in that manner. So secularization as a thesis refers to the belief that society's progress, particularly through modernization and then rationalization. That means you can go to rationalize a lot of things. Dogmas and traditionality don't go into having an authority. They're going to lose their authority in all aspects of societal life and governance. That means certain things that go on to block the mind of the people, that does go on to be completely out of fashion in this case. Secularization allows parampara to be flexible and changing with the times and not anachronistic. That means every time, every decade, every quinquennium, there is going to be a new parampara that goes on to evolve, and that keeps on becoming flexible. So it also goes on to follow what you're going to be talking about, what Darwin went on to say some time back. That is, it's not the strongest species that going to survive. It's the one of those species that is most adapted to the condition that actually goes on to survive. So it is going to be adaptation to a different type of a information level, different type of a knowledge, a different type of interpretation of knowledge, and a completely different type of a society that is going to be evolving. Secularization is sometimes credited both to the cultural shifts in society following the emergence of rationality and the development of science as a substitute for superstition. That means superstition doesn't go to playing any type of a role at all. So everything has a reason, everything has a logic, everything can be proven. And this is what was called by Max Weber as the disenchantment of the world. This was the process which was called a disenchantment with the world. That means you are not worldly, you are completely disenchanted from the whole of the world, and that you are following a path that is going to be completely new, completely novel, completely unique. You are trying to create a niche for yourself, and you are trying to create a path on only which you are going to be running. It's like the person who has undergone through this process of secularization, they know their destination very well, and they know that they will going to reach that destination. Consequently, the path they follow doesn't matter. Now just imagine, think of it. If you know that your destination is clear, clean, and you will go to reach it, the path in this case does not matter at all. That's what we're going to be calling it, disenchantment of the world. One of these scholars, Abdul Wahab al-Miyasari, outlined two meanings of secularization term. He talked about partial secularization, which is the common meaning of the word, and that expresses the separation between a religion and a state. That means you are evolved in such a manner that you're going to separate a religion from a state completely. Whatever the state is doing and whatever religion that you're following, they don't going to be having any connection at all. You are secular in that sense. That is, the state does not going to enforce any type of religion on you. You're free to follow any type of a religion that you go on to like. India is one of those countries that is going to be partially secularized in Abdul Wahab al-Misri's concepts. Second is complete secularization. This definition is not limited to partial definition but exceeds to it. It is a separation between all, that is religious, moral and human values, and not just the state but also the human nature in public and private side, so that this world is transformed into a usable matter that can be employed for the sake of the strong. That means there is a complete separation of religious, moral and human values, and not just the state but also the human nature in its public and private side. That means what you're going to be public, what you're going to be private, that is going to be, both of them are going to be separated, so that it's not that you're going to present two faces to the world. That is, you do go on to be feeling independent in a public matter, in a different matter, and in a private matter completely different, and transforming the world into a usable matter that can be employed for the sake of a strong. That means it allows you to become strong and strong. This is because you go on to play not one role, you're going to play at least 6-7 different roles, and that you are able to understand yourself, understand your emotions, and differentiate your emotions during different times with different people as well. That is the concept of secularization. Now, a question that can be asked in this case can be, critically examine the concept of secularization. This was the answer to this question. Discuss critically the concept of secularization, or critically examine the concept of secularization. So if you're going to say that is it that a secularization type of a concept and a secularized thinking is going to be possible in this world, the answer is yes. There are a good number of people who don't going to be following certain type of rituals, a certain type of traditionality. They're going to be enjoying themselves what they are doing. Such people going to include, take an example of Gulzar. He is the one who goes on to enjoy writing poetry, and he is into it completely. He doesn't go on to changing himself for the whole of the world. He has a particular dress, he has a particular ethos, he is enjoying one thing and he is doing it so. No holds barred on that count. He has a secularized mindset. He is becoming stronger. Pick up the case similarly with respect to A.R. Rahman. His music is his life. He is completely independent. For the purpose of his music, he goes on to traveling through the whole of the world. Pick up the case of James Cameron. He goes on to take 4 years of a time. He goes on to enjoy, goes on to look for what not type of a place in the whole of the world. It is only after then that he goes on to pour himself and emotions into the movie as well. Now that is about being strong. This is what exactly we going to be calling as a separation of so many things, so many type of emotions. So the second question, what are the factors that go on to lead to secularization attitude? It is generally difficult to exactly know why such type of attitude arises, but why is it that it happens? But then it happens because there are some people who will always going to assert their identity, very strong of their identity, and they want to assert it. They want to know the whole of the world that they are going to be different. That's one. Identity assertion is what exactly has taken Priyanka Chopra to United States. Identity assertion is what exactly has led Deepika Padukone to speak English in the same accent as she speaks in India, not that she has acquired an Americanized accent in this case. It's identity assertion that has been also with some people like that of Nina Gupta, who went on to consider Vivian Riches as her husband, and she has not looked for anyone else at all in this case. This is an identity assertion. Second is industrialization and its role. Industrialization is going to be associated with a process of value addition to your skill, to your thinking, to your resource, and to whatever that you are. We are talking about value addition to your skill, your thinking, and to whatever that you go on to be. It is this value addition that goes on to be so significant in this case. Now, when you're going to be talking about value addition to anything, your own concept, your own knowledge, your own relationship, then of course you go on to be competing with yourself. That means you're trying to make yourself stronger, stronger, and stronger. The third is urbanization. So the role of urbanization, that is, urbanization is a special concomitant phenomena that is associated with the congregation of the people and a change in the social, psychological and intellectual behavior of the people in such a manner that they're going to become urban. That means a person who is so sophisticated and very skillful so that he goes on to be completely distinct in an urban setting. And that is what you're going to say, a true citizen, a global citizen, a cosmopolitan citizen, who is one who goes on to set the trend of the entire of the city and entire of the urban areas. That is urbanization. Fourth is economic development, not growth. So economic development is going to be almost virtually always accompanied by secularization process. Why? Because development refers to the enlargement of the choice of the people. So if you're going to be having a manifold choices and all of your choices going to get fulfilled, then the fulfillment of your choice in a variety of ways is what exactly goes on to allow you to explore different aspects of the avenues of your personality and going to go ahead with it. Fifth is, that is a stimulant such as altered attitude. That is education. It is education that facilitates the rapid spread of new ideas and information. And we are not talking about literacy. Education is something that is an ability to learn, relearn, new learn. Self-identification of its strengths and the weaknesses and keep on improving over it. So one who is in a position to learn, unlearn, relearn in a variety of ways by opening his complete mindset and mind, then that is going to be about self-identification of its strengths and weaknesses in this case. That is, a person is always going to be stronger who is going to be so receptive of new ideas and information. That is education. Education is all about lending values. Education is not information. Education is, even if you're illiterate, anything that you're going to learn and you keep on learning by observation, you keep on updating this information by observing it even sharper, even sharper, even sharper. A person may be illiterate, but he will be highly educated, largely because the person has the capability to learn, unlearn and relearn. He can learn anything at any point of time and in any manner possible. That is how exactly he goes on to identify his strengths and weaknesses. That was the answer to the question. Discuss the various factors that go on to lead to evolution of the process of secularization. The last of this component is going to be the forms and impact of secularization. That means what can be the various forms of secularization? What can be the various types of secularization? What can be the several segments of secularization? So there are going to be 6 uses of the term secularization in scientific literature. First, as macro-social structure, secularization refers to differentiation, a process in which the different aspects of society, that is economic, political, legal and moral, become increasingly specialized and distinct from one another. That means you do not going to mix politics with legality, you do not going to mix morality with legality, you do not going to mix morality with society, you do not going to mix morality with economics, and this is going to be very, very segmented, very, very, very well developed itself. As individual institutions, secularization can denote the transformation of a religious into a secular institution. Such as, take an example of Harvard. Harvard University went on to begin from a church. That is, the core of it was a church. It was a religious institution. And now that has gone on to become a secular institution with a divinity school now housing the religious element illustrating differentiation. So, it is in Harvard that people don't go into mind it, teaching and learning something about Varanasi, something about Himalayas, something about India, something about Hinduism. Now, these are some of these components that are part of it. Third is inactivity. Secularization refers to the transfer of activities from traditional and bonded sphere. The word is bonded sphere. Traditional is always bonded by a large. So, to independent institutions, such as the shift in the provision of social services from temples, which are medium distribution of agricultural services to the government at one point of a time. That is, you start moving from a society that is going to be bonded to a society that is going to become open. You start moving towards a mindset that is going to be bonded towards a mindset that is going to be open. And it is in openness that you explore yourself, you experiment with yourself, you explore relationships, you experiment with the relationship, and then you're going to evolve this type of relationship. And remember the example of Krishna. He went on to explore and know about the different type of relationship that he had been into with the Pandavas, with the Kauravas, with the gods, with the goddesses, with the human beings, and with almost everyone in this world. In and as mentalities, secularization refers to the transition from ultimate concerns to proximate concerns. That is, individuals in the West are more likely to moderate their behavior in response to more immediate applicable consequences rather than out of concern of post-mortem consequences. That is, the Western people will go on to be taking a lot of steps that will go on to make them safe, rather than they will go on to do certain activity and then go on to go for post-mortem, what I should have done, what I should not have done, and things like that. So, that is the ultimate concern to the proximate concern. That is what we go on to be thinking of. So, they are the one that will go on to be always thinking on preventing certain things rather than managing certain things after that event have taken place. Denoting to populations, the meaning of secularization goes on to be different. It shows that secularization refers to the general decline in the religiosity of the society, meaning that society in general doesn't go on to follow so many type of religious trends. It doesn't go on to believe in so many form of religions or religions in the true sense of the term. But then it also goes on to refer to the individuals who go on to be following secularization, meaning that while the individuals go on to follow the trends of independence, trends of being completely independent of the worldly things, the society does not go on to follow the same trend, rather it goes on to follow the trend associated with an overall declining in following the religion in the theoretical sense of the term, not in philosophical sense of the term. Meaning that the individuals will start following the concept of a philosophy, while the groups will start following the concept of a tradition. To interpret it in another manner, secularization as a philosophy, a religion as a philosophy, basically goes on to mean that anything that you are going to be doing in such a manner that you are completely involved in it. As is said in Sanskrit, mansa vacha karmana. That means you're so involved in the whole of the scheme of things that you're going to tend to forget everything that goes on to become your religion because you're so involved in it. It's like when Mr. Rahul Dravid goes on to be having a batting, then he is following a religion. That is, cricket is his religion. Sachin Tendulkar, cricket was his religion. And it was in similar manner, if someone like Shane Bond was going to be bowling, then that is how exactly they were treating it as a religion. So that is at an individual level. So at an individual level, it is not something associated with the gods or the goddesses or the temples or the priest. It is something associated with how much amount of an attention that you are going to be giving to yourself, essentially for the purpose of knowing it. Then the society in this case just go on to follow the type of a trend that is associated with an overall decline in the religious rituals, certain things like religious beliefs, they tend to go on to become slightly more logical of sorts in this case. The sixth component is, talking of religion, secularization refers to the unambiguity in the form of the religious beliefs. For example, it goes on to show to what denominations that some of these religious sects go on to belong to. It can be, for example, Christianity, so whether they are going to be Catholics or the Protestants, whether they go on to be Himalayan and Mahayan when they go on to belonging to Jainism, and to Buddhism, and to Shwetambars and Digambars when they go on to be talking about Jainism. Maybe even if they are going to be talking about Hinduism, is it that they are going to be Vaishya? Is it that they are going to be following a sect of Shiva, right? Or is it that they are going to be Vaishnava? Maybe that some of them are going to call themselves a theist or an atheist, because Hinduism does go on to apply to both of these components. Meaning that when we go on to be talking about Hinduism, then there can be so many type of diversions and so many types of denominations that can go on to apply to different type of people, and all of them go on to be following different type of forms, different type of philosophies, and different type of a lifestyle as well. A person who happens to be an ardent admirer of Lord Krishna, he will go on to see the world from a completely different perspective than in comparison to a person who goes on to be a Shiva. The people who go on to be the followers of a Shiva or Shivites that we go on to be calling it, and we are not saying that they are going to be the followers of Shankar. Lord Shankar, anyone who can go on to follow it is going to be following a person, and when someone is going to be following a sect of Shivites, then Shivite is a philosophy, Shivite is a principle, Shivite is something that doesn't going to exist. It is something that is always going to be felt, and it's in the same manner that the philosophy, the feelings, and the preachings of Lord Krishna also go on to be. And even in Krishna, then there are going to be at least 5-6 different forms, and this is largely because Lord Krishna was one of those persons who was highly associated with emotional differentiation. With his gopis, he was a different person. With Pandav, he was a different person. With Kaura, he was a different person. And as a soldier, he was a different person. As a diplomat, he was a different person altogether. And as a god, he was a completely different person. In order to conclude, the one thing that we can always go on to think of is that secularization is one of those least understood of the terms and one of the least understood of the philosophies. And it has something to do with religion, something to do with it, not everything to do with religion. It is all about to deal with independence, it is all about to deal with differentiation, it is all about to deal with how is it that a person goes on to lead his life. It is all about the meaning of success, and in this case, what secularization goes on to explain is the only meaning of success is leading your life the way you want to lead.